So today I'm going to show you how to solve for x. This is particularly useful in chemistry because we come across a lot of equations that we need to solve in chemistry. So I want to go back to some of the basics. If you have this, 12 equals 4x, do you know how to solve for x? Now you might look at that and you might say, I know that x is 3, but let me show you how you solve for it. You divide by 4 on this side, divide by 4 on this side. This 4 cancels out. 12 divided by 4 is 3, and 3 equals x. What about this? 12 equals 4x plus 2. In order to solve for x there, we need to start with the addition. Subtract the 2 on this side, subtract the 2 on this side. So we end up with 10 equals 4x. Again, we want to divide by 4 on this side, divide by 4 on this side. This cancels, and now you have 10 divided by 4. Now, we never keep things as fractions, chemistry class, so you will want to type into your calculator 10 divided by 4 equals 2.5. So 2.5 equals x. So that's fine as far as having numbers, but what about when we don't have any numbers? What if you had something like this? What if you had C equals lambda nu? Now, you don't even know what those mean or what they stand for, but if I wanted you to solve for nu, which is this little symbol here that looks like a V, could you solve for this? It's the same process. Divide by lambda, divide by lambda, and you're going to get C divided by lambda equals nu. However, a lot of times in my class, I like to write it forwards because we read from left to right. So you'll see me swap it around so that I have that. Now in my calculator, I can just plug in whatever I get for C and whatever I get for this value and end up with this value. How about something a little bit more complicated? What about if I had P V equals N R T, and you were asked to solve for N? If you had to solve this for N, you could divide by R on this side and divide by R on this side. I also have to divide by T, so I'm going to do this all in one step. The R's cancel, the T's cancel, and I end up with N equals PV over RT. Now let's say you want to start substituting in some real numbers. Here's a familiar one. Density equals mass over volume. What if someone has given you the information that the density of an object is 5 grams per milliliter, and the volume of the object is 28.3 milliliters. And then they're asking, what is the mass of the object? So what I need to do is I need to get mass all by itself in this equation. So step number 1 is going to be to multiply both sides of the equation by V. That way V is off the bottom and V has ended up over here. I can rewrite that as mass equals density times volume. That's because I can switch things around. Now, mass equals 5 grams per milliliter times a volume of 28.3 milliliters. I can plug that into my calculator. 5 times 28.3 equals a mass of 141.5. And I know this is in grams because of my unit of density. Now, to be totally honest with you, I usually skip writing out this step. If I have this and I have this, then there's really not a need to rewrite that all out. I can really just put it into my calculator. Let's look at another chemistry equation. Q equals mc delta T. This is heat equals mass times specific heat times the change in temperature. Sometimes when you're given this one, you're given everything but the Q. So you're given the mass. Let's say we have a mass of 25 grams. You're given C. Let's go with water, 4.18 joules per gram times degrees Celsius. And you're given some temperatures. You're given the final temperature is 104 degrees Celsius, and the temperature that it started out as was 74 degrees Celsius. So in order to find delta T equals T final minus T initial. So 104 minus 74 equals a delta T of 30 degrees Celsius. Now in this case, I've been given the M, the C, and the delta T. I choose to not write this out. Again, I'll just put it into my calculator. 25 times 4.18 times 30 gives me an answer of Q equals 3135. Make sure you use the correct units. Grams is going to cancel. Degrees Celsius is going to cancel. And you're left in joules. Now sometimes that same equation, Q equals mc delta T, but instead, this time, they will give you the Q value. So they'll say Q equals 3,200 joules. Maybe the mass equals 57 grams. And the temperature changed by 90 degrees Celsius. So in this case, the C value is what I'm looking for. Now, I know from other problems I've done and canceling out that my C value is going to end up in joules per grams times degrees Celsius, but you can figure that out with the math. Now let's rearrange this equation. Q equals mc delta T. I'm going to divide this side by the M and the delta T, which is going to cancel. Divide this side by the M and the delta T. And I'm going to rewrite it forwards. Q equals, or C equals Q over M delta T. Now again, I don't like to write this all out again. I just like to go ahead and plug it into my calculator. But you need to think about something. You need to think about the fact that this is really C equals Q divided by M times delta T. So these parentheses in math are very important. If you don't parenthesize in your calculator, you're going to get the answer wrong. I'll show you how to put it into the calculator. 3,200 divided by the M is 57. Now you'll notice I didn't use parentheses. So what I can do is I can hit the divided by button again because the T exists on the bottom, and I'll divide by 90, which is going to give me a C value of 0.624 joules per gram times degrees Celsius. Let's go on to another chemistry equation that tends to really confuse people. P1 V1 over T1 equals P2 V2 over T2. Now in this case, you may have to solve for P, V, P2, T2, you're not even sure which one you have to solve for. But I'll show you a nice, easy way algebraically to look at this. The first thing you can do, if you'd like, is you can cross multiply these. So you can end up with P1 V1 T2 equals P2 V2 T1. People really like this because this way, if I have to solve for V2, I can simply divide by P2, divide by T1, and do the same on the left-hand side. That way these cancel, and I'm left with V2 equals P1 V1 T2 over P2 T1. That is identical to multiplying on both sides and then dividing as a whole. Again, if you want to get good at solving for x, what you're going to need to do is ignore the numbers and just work with the letters in the equation first.